My first job was actually in IT security. It was actually during my degree. I had a sandwich degree where I had a 1-year work placement, and I got a job in a bank in their IT security department, which was tiny at the time, and no one really knew what it was. But I kind of enjoyed it, and I stuck with it, and it's been 17 years now. From a practical perspective, there are some fundamental steps that businesses can take to protect themselves from a security attack. First thing is that it's almost impossible to 100% protect from all forms of attacks, but you can reduce the impact that they have. And one of the first steps is to understand exactly what inventory you have, what your key data elements are, and what your core business is. If you're a business that does most of its business online, then your online presence is your primary sort of area of concern. So that's where you should focus a lot of your security controls rather than focusing it on your laptops in your office. So understanding what you have is step one. And step two is like then putting in place those controls that isolate those critical systems so that only the people that really need access have access to it. And the third step is understand what vulnerabilities or what are the exposures to that system. So, if the analogy I like to use is if you're on a ground floor apartment, if you leave your window open when you're not at home, that is far more risky than if you're in the five stories off the ground, because it's a lot easier for someone to climb in. So understanding where you're vulnerable and then protecting those assets will help you go a long way. Some of the most common pitfalls and mistakes companies make that cause them to get breached is, I think first off, it's user education and awareness. It's like when someone gets an email saying you've just won the lottery, or I'm your CEO, transfer this much money to so and so, and they click on that link. That's where a lot of companies get infected. That's the most common attack vector. Or they see a USB in the outside and they pick it up and they stick it into the machine, and they suddenly got infected. It's really the basics of user behavior and education that really is what lets a lot of companies down. If a security attack does strike, a business should really have a plan in place before an incident actually happens. One of my favorite quotes is by Mike Tyson in this regard, where he says, "Everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face." So there's a lot of panic usually that occurs when an incident does happen, and it's important for companies to have a formulated step. So that involves like a communication plan with their customers or stakeholders, but also how do they isolate the systems that are affected so that it doesn't spread any further, and having backups in place from which they can restore so that they can maintain service or resume service as quickly and efficiently as possible.